Good evening. I'm Larry Temple. As chairman of the Lyndon Baines Johnson I probably particularly appreciate that because I don't deserve it. As chairman of the Lyndon Baines Johnson Foundation, it's my privilege to welcome you tonight to the presentation of the Lady Bird Johnson Environmental Award Ceremony. You'll hear a little bit later about the origin of that award, and you'll hear from others in just a little bit about the recipient tonight and the introduction of the program itself. But I want to comment about environment and where we are today and recognize something about Lady Bird Johnson. We're in the midst of a wonderful celebration. 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018 are the 50th anniversaries of all the landmark legislation passed in the LBJ administration. Included in that are a great array of pieces of legislation on the environment. In today's world, if the Congress were to pass one bill on the environment, it would be a big progress. Think about it just a minute. In that 5-year period, at the behest of Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson, Congress passed more than 30 separate, significant, major pieces of legislation with regard to the environment. Legislation to give us clean rivers, to give us clean air, to protect the wilderness area, to protect our forests. If you want to get the litany of all of them, you can go upstairs to the exhibits at the library, and they're listed up there. But that is what we recognize. And when we recognize that, there are two people that were partners in that process, Lady Bird Johnson and Lyndon Johnson. One of the great historians of our time said that there are three great environmentalists of the 20th century: Teddy Roosevelt, Lyndon Johnson, and Lady Bird Johnson. And I think that's exactly right. And so when we present this award, we recognize Lady Bird Johnson's role in that environmental advantages. And also, we recognize the people that are carrying on the legacy today, and that's what you'll hear more about later. Now, it's my privilege to present the one who will make the introduction of the program, and we've got the right one to do it because he touches all bases. Tom Johnson worked for Lyndon Johnson in the White House, and in the post-presidency days, worked with Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson here in the city of Austin. He also later, as president of CNN, worked with Ted Turner, so he has that contact. And then for 30 years, he was chairman of the LBJ Foundation. He says I kicked him out, but that's not quite right. And so he has that connection. Now, what Tom told me a little bit earlier is that he wanted me to keep my introduction of him down to no more than 20 minutes. I'm going to give you 19 of those minutes back, Tom, and I present to you Tom Johnson.
Larry, thank you. It is a genuine personal honor for me to have the opportunity to introduce Ted Turner to you tonight, because Ted Turner is a hero of mine, particularly in a world where it's very tough to identify genuine heroes. As Larry said, as president of CNN, I worked directly with Ted for 11 years. Note that I said worked with Ted, because he does not let anybody say that they work for him. You work with me, pal, not for me. And I can't tell you how much that meant to people up and down the line throughout the organization. As we all do, Ted has his share of idiosyncrasies. When somebody says, Mr. Turner, he quickly responds, call me Ted, which incidentally is the title of a biography about Ted. He's an absolute stickler for being on time, already has nudged me backstage, and he expects those of us who work with him always to be on time. I mean, always. Despite his wealth, Ted is frugal and environmentally conscious. He drives a Prius, He flew coach class on airlines until his global travels made it necessary to own a private plane. He applies the same work performance standards to his family members as he does to himself and to our staff. At various times, 2 of Ted's 5 children work with me at CNN. Their bureau chiefs were instructed to make sure that they performed at levels equal to or greater than non-family members. They did, all 5 of them. When son Teddy's department was downsized and son Teddy's position was eliminated, he went to see his dad. Ted's response was, "Son, you're toast." There was no special treatment for the owner's children. Something that always has amazed me, it's not at all unusual to see Ted picking up litter, picking up trash around CNN Center as he walks the streets of Atlanta or other cities, not for show, but because he believes that we all have a responsibility to do so. Now, Ted is very competitive. He wants to win. And if you just think about a few of his victories, America's Cup, the World Series with his Atlanta Braves, Time Magazine Man of the Year, CNN's exclusive 1991 War in the Gulf coverage from Baghdad, and tonight, the Lady Bird Johnson Environmental Award, the highest award that we give for a person who has really done all they can for our environment. And I say this with every ounce of sincerity within me. Ted cares more about the condition of this planet than any person that I have ever known. His Turner Foundation has given $374 million to programs to improve air and water quality, to develop a practical energy future to protect our climate, to safeguard environmental health, to protect wildlife and habitats, to maintain biodiversity, and to reduce our unsustainable, and I really mean unsustainable, global population growth. He created the Captain Planet Foundation in 1990 to fund hands-on environmental projects for children and youth around the world. He is today the 2nd largest landholder in North America with 2 million acres in 12 states and also magnificent properties in Argentina. He is now working with the Nature Conservancy to place conservation easements on most of those properties to protect them from development for many, many generations to come. Those ranches are now home to 50,000 bison. When Ted started buying bison in 1978, there were only 70,000 remaining on the planet. Today, there are more than 400,000 bison in North America alone. Ted's properties include many environmental projects, reforestation, renewable energy, water resource management, the reintroduction of native species, and yes, for all of you out there who are friends of the Wildflower Center, there are wildflowers in the spring everywhere on those properties. Ted has established the Endangered Species Fund. He is restoring the prairie dog, the gray wolf, the Bison tortoise, and especially the bison. You undoubtedly will hear from Ted tonight about one of his newer ventures, Ted's Montana Grill, prepared in his chain of restaurants, low in fat, low in cholesterol. Bison tastes really terrific, as Edwina and I can testify. Of course, his commitment to the environment is only one, but the most important reason we honor him tonight. However, I will remind you that Ted gave $1 billion to the United Nations to enable it to serve the cause of peace in this war-torn world of ours. He established with former Senator Sam Nunn the Nuclear Threat Initiative to do what he can to prevent the type of catastrophic nuclear accident that we had at Chernobyl and the close call we had at 3 Mile Island, and hopefully, to prevent a nuclear war in this era of ISIS, of proliferation, of Iran's ambitions, and weapons now already in North Korea. He has inspired other billionaires like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates to give away much of their wealth to good causes now in their lifetime, and Ted continues to do so. In my judgment, there has never been another man like him before, and sadly, I do not believe there will be another one like him again. Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Turner. I have been privileged to work with many splendid journalists during my career in newspapers and in television news. Interviewing Ted Turner tonight is one of the very, very best of them all. In my opinion, there is nobody better than Wolf Blitzer. Professionally, he has covered wars, natural disasters, politics, virtually every category of breaking news. He's been a combat field correspondent and anchor, and very importantly, a mentor to many, many aspiring young journalists. There are babies, now perhaps teenagers and beyond, all over the world whose name is Wolf. Most of them named Wolf when either conceived or when delivered during that non-stop 24-hour-a-day exclusive 1991 War in the Gulf coverage that was seen by hundreds of millions of people around the globe. Please welcome a living legend, Wolf Blitzer. Wolf.
Thank you so much, Tom Johnson, who's as all of you know, I'm sure, a great, great man. He was my leader at CNN during that first Gulf War. I just spent last week sort of remembering all of that because this month I'm celebrating my 25th year at CNN, and it's been a fabulous experience because of people like Tom Johnson and Ted Turner, and we're all grateful to both of them. So let's give them once again a big round of applause. And I was especially happy to hear Tom say that Ted has been involved in saving the gray wolf. Very personal. It means a lot to me, Ted, to hear that. So I'm grateful to you for that. One quick story about Tom Johnson. When he was the president of CNN, all of us went to cover the collapse of the Soviet Union in December 1991. One of the major events, obviously, of the 20th century, ending 74 years of communist rule in Russia and the Soviet Union. We were there when they signed the documents ending the Soviet Union, creating all those independent states. And I'll never forget, I was the CNN's military affairs correspondent, the Pentagon correspondent, but Tom was there, and we had people came into the Moscow bureau from all over the world, all of our CNN people, producers, photographers, reporters. We had a huge staff. And one day, Tom said, come on, let's go. We walked a couple blocks to a Pizza Hut to bring pizza back to everybody. And I remember texting my wife back in Washington. I said, the president of CNN is making me go to Pizza Hut to make sure that the staff has food so they can all eat, and we brought back pizzas. And Tom Johnson was that kind of leader. So I'm grateful to Tom for his leadership at CNN, for his friendship, and his beautiful wife, Edwina, who's here with us as well. Everything they've done has been really, really spectacular. So, Ted, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing, because this environmental award, which you richly deserve, is, as Tom laid out, is so important. How did you get into this? How did you get into this whole issue of protecting the environment?
Well, when I was a little boy, when I first learned to read when I was 7, 8, 10 years old. I looked at National Geographic every month and read it as best I could, and read all the books that I could get my hands on about birds, flowers, and so forth. I was just had a born affinity for the natural world, and it just kept growing.
And it became a passion throughout your entire life.
Right.
But it became really, really powerful when? In terms of actually taking steps to protect the environment.
Well, even when I was a little kid, I tried to do whatever I could. I had it from the get-go.
What are the major problems we're facing today? Let's talk about North America in the environment.
Well, at the very beginning of the problem is really too many people. We were just putting too great a strain on the natural world. And when I was born in 1938, there were 2 billion people on the planet. Now there's 7, almost 8, maybe 8. 3.5, 4 times as many in the lifetime of one person. That's unsustainable. And our problems, that all those people have to have energy, they have to have food, they have to have room to live, and it's just the planet just can't support so many of us using so much stuff, and there's good news on that front, because the rate of growth is slowing rapidly. In 1950, there was not a single country in the world that had a stable population, and now there's over 40. So, you know, maybe none of these things. That's why I work so hard to try and help get things going in the right direction, because I feel like we've got a fighting chance of making it. And if we can make it through the next 50 years, if we can survive that, we could be here for thousands of years or maybe millions of years like our forefathers were.
Those are going to be critical years. How do you deal with enormous population growth? That's something.
Education, media, programs. That's the way. We have ways of dealing with things, and we have a lot of things we didn't have more tools to fight with. The United Nations, they're there, and every country in the world belongs to the United Nations, even North Korea. So it's far from hopeless. I mean,
you still believe in the United Nations?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us why, because a lot of people have lost confidence given the chaos going on in so many parts of the world.
That's not the fault of the United Nations. God knows it would be a heck of a lot worse if they weren't here. The United Nations is what we make it. It's a conglomeration of our governments around the world, and if we want the United Nations to do something, all we have to do is like a democratic government. All we have to do is let them know.
You're dealing not only with the environment, but you're dealing with nuclear disarmament, the nuclear issues. You want to remove disease if possible, the environment. These are enormous challenges. These are enormous priorities.
Well, why not? Why don't we? I spent my life doing, with CNN, doing the best job that I possibly could. Why don't we see how many things, instead of how many things we can do wrong, why not see how many things we can do right? Maybe we could get rid of nuclear weapons. I feel like that if we can make it through the next 25 years, we've got a really good chance. We've got to work hard for 25 years because we're doing a lot of things wrong, but there's no reason why we can't turn around and start doing everything right, because in most cases we know what the right thing to do is. We're so smart. There's an article in the paper today that they found stone tools were made 300 million years earlier than we previously thought, 3.5 million years ago or whatever. But for the first 2 million years of human existence, of humanoids walking around, that we made only two discoveries. And one was fire. Good, hard to live without fire. And the other was stone tools. In 2 million years, we didn't learn. And then finally, 15,000 years ago, the start of the agriculture, and then a couple hundred years ago, the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, when we started using metals. We've learned so much so fast that you can forgive us a little bit for getting a little bit ahead of ourselves as far as population and the environment are concerned. There are too many people taking advantage of the environment in a destructive way. There are good ways to take care of the environment, and those are the ones that we need to adopt.
I want to talk about the environment, but as far as nuclear disarmament right now, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see any movement significant, given the tensions between the U.S. and Russia,
yes,
given the proliferation of North Korea, other countries. Do you see any progress at all in nuclear disarmament?
Putin, at Sochi, he was on a panel, and he said, we need to get rid of nuclear weapons. Putin said that a couple months ago. We know we should get rid of them. Everybody knows it. In fact, the Secretary of State of Syria said a couple of weeks ago that the way we have to get rid of nuclear weapons is everybody get rid of them. And that's true. You can't have some countries that can have nuclear weapons and others can't. Who's to tell you? That we all have them or nobody has them? And I'm for saying nobody has them, because you can't use them not intelligently, because a full-scale nuclear explosion or series of explosions will destroy the whole world. We'll be lucky if cockroaches survive. And I don't like that. I like the world.
Yeah.
That's why I'm getting this award. And I believe what the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve. Somebody wrote that a long time ago, and it wasn't me, but I definitely agree with that. And I think that even though it looks really dark at the current time, that there's another saying, it's always darkest just before the dawn. We could have a renaissance. We had one several hundred years ago that brought the Dark Ages to an end. Nobody saw it coming, but it just happened. And maybe it'll happen again. And I'm going to do everything I can to see that it does. And
we're grateful to you for that. And I love your optimism.
It's
really encouraging.
What good is it to be a pessimist? There's no hope.
You raised the issue of Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia. And there's a little known story, and I don't know if you want to share it with our friends here tonight, how you met him and the history of Ted Turner and Vladimir Putin.
Well, I met him in his office. He was vice mayor of St. Petersburg. He'd never been in the legislature or anything. He was just a minor official in St. Petersburg. And we had the Goodwill Games there while he was in office. And normally when I would come over to see how I came over every month, the year before the games, in order to see how the preparations were coming along with the venues, the swimming pools, et cetera. And Mayor Sobchak was out of town on business, and he sent Putin to pick me up at the airport and take me to dinner and smoke me up a little bit, but how good a job they were doing, which they were doing a good job. And we got in the car, and we were headed for the restaurant, and we got a phone call in the car, and it was somebody calling for Mr. Putin to tell him that his wife had been in an automobile accident. Not to worry, she wasn't seriously hurt. And so I said, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm taking you to dinner. That's my assignment. I said, oh, no, you're not. I said, we'll get in the other car and go to the hotel and the restaurant, and we can take care of it. You go to the hospital, please. And he did. And his wife pulled through okay, but she was hurt worse than they indicated on the radio. So that's how I got to meet him.
And you had a good friendship with him ever since? To this very day?
Yes. I like him. But I like Castro. I like a lot of people. I see other people see enemies and I see friends. I can't hate. Is there anybody in here who hates me?
No.
Well, really, isn't that a good idea? Because I've been doing a lot of different things. I mean, you might not like the Goodwill Games. You might not like trying to make peace with the Russians. I mean, I take my family over to Russia on holiday, and we go touring on the back part of the country and visiting the churches and the museums. It's a beautiful place, and the people are really sweet as they can be. You wouldn't want to hurt a single one of them. And here we've got 20,000 nuclear weapons pointed at them on hair trigger alert. Come on. What are we going to do? What if something goes wrong? What if one of these engineers on the train gets charged with nuclear weapons with a nervous breakdown or something? The guy didn't even remember what he did. Remember we did last week when the train wrecked.
It's amazing the work that you've done. I mean, you created CNN 35 years ago. On June 1st, by the way, we will all be celebrating the 35th anniversary of CNN. 35 years, June 1st, 1980. Ted literally was the first 24/7 cable news network. People thought he was crazy. He took what money he had, rolled the dice, and said, not just the United States, but the world needs a 24/7 cable news network. And it's not going to go off the air. It's going to go on. I don't know if you saw the 1-hour documentary we did last year on Ted Turner, but I spent a lot of time with him at his ranch and other places. It's really good. If you have a chance, you should watch it. But next week, and let me give this promotion, next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, a 1-hour documentary on the first 35 years of CNN that I will be hosting. We've worked hard on it over these past several months, and I think those of you who are news junkies and are historian buffs will really enjoy it. And I'm reminded, Ted, of some of the controversial things you did with Castro, with Russia, with the Goodwill Games. But when I went to North Korea a few years ago, December 2010, I spent 6 days in Pyongyang, and I went over there without a cell phone, without a laptop, or without anything. And I was in this guest house, and there's a TV, an old school TV in there, and I turn on the TV, see a lot of North Korean propaganda, but then I finally turn to one channel, and there is CNN on the air in this room in North Korea. And I said, wow. And I did some research walking around the hotel, and there was a huge dish outside this guest house, really old dish that they told me, well, Ted Turner and CNN gave us this dish so that we could watch CNN in North Korea. And to this day, they're watching CNN because of that dish that's still in business over there outside that government guest house in North Korea. That's the kind of stuff that Ted did, and it really is amazing when you think about it. So when I say that Ted Turner literally changed the world, because think of how many local, national, international, 24/7 cable satellite news channels there are right now. He came up with that concept, and he stuck by it, and he did an amazing job, and we're all grateful to you for that. So let's give him another big round of applause. All right. Now, I'm from Buffalo, New York. So what's with all the Buffalo? Ted Turner and Buffalo?
Well, when I was a little boy, and I was reading these books for the first time about the environment, I ran into the story of the buffalo, where there had been 200 million of them or whatever when the white man landed in the New World, and 200 years later they were down to 200, and how close they came to extinction at the hands of man. And I just thought that was a great tragedy, and I just resolved right then. I said, when I grow up, I'm going to try and work real hard and make some money, and I'm going to buy land, and I'm going to see if I can bring the bison back. And I did, just like CNN.
It's really amazing when you think about it.
I started 30 years ago with 3 bison, a bull and 2 cows. And in the spring, the 2 cows each had a calf, and that's a 40% increase in 1 year. I said, this looks like it could be something. And I kept working and built my herd up and I bought all that millions of acres of land out west on the Great Plains. I bought it to handle my expanding bison herd. I sold some of them, which I didn't want to do, but I had to do it because I didn't have enough room. You learn about population dealing with animals and birds and even with plants. If there's too many, they crowd each other out. And the bison herd grew from those 3 bison. I did buy 4,000 calves, and put them into the breeding program. And now I've got, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 55,000 bison. That's a lot. But that's 20% of all the bison in North America, not North America, in the United States. There's about 300,000 totally in the United States and about 200,000 in Canada.
Well, what's it like knowing that you have 50 or 55,000 bison
That's twice as many as the United States government has.
It's what?
That's twice as many as the government has in Yellowstone Park.
How does that make you feel knowing that you have 50,000 bison roaming around your property?
Makes me feel good. It really does. I mean, it gives me hope to carry on. If I can do that, we can do anything. That's why I believe there's hope. You gotta have hope.
So you're protecting the environment. You're bringing back.
Yeah, I have 250,000 prairie dogs, but 3 years ago I had 750,000, roughly. I mean, you can't count them, and it's damn many of them. Anyway, that's about 10% of all the prairie dogs, and the reason they've dropped from 750,000 down to 250,000, a third, is they get plague, the same plague, the black plague that used to hit Europe. When our forefathers came over on the boats from Europe, they brought the plague with them, and the prairie dogs got it. And then every now and then there's an outbreak, and the prairie dogs come close to extinction, and then it goes away and they bounce back. It's kind of like Ebola. Ebola for prairie dogs. So we have to deal with that too. I've got a full-time medical staff working on the endangered species because we can't afford to lose the prairie dogs. We can't afford to lose the bison. At least I feel that way. I don't want to lose everything. My bumper sticker now, I had bumper stickers that, but the one I've got now says "Save everything."
I'm with you. All right, so you go ahead. All right, so your ranching business, you got 3 goals. You want to protect the environment, you want to bring back native species,
and feed the hungry, good, healthy food.
You want to feed the hungry, and you want to make money in all of that.
You can do it all.
How do you do it all?
Just get up in the morning and work out, take a shower and shave, and go on out and do it. Just do it.
That's it. Just do it.
Isn't that Nike's slogan? Just do it.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what I did. Just do what I did. Do it.
And that ranching business, doing all those good deeds.
And when you're walking down the street, if you see a piece of trash, pick it up and carry it to the nearest garbage can. When people say, well, I'm not a billionaire, I can't afford it. I said, oh, you can pick up trash, can't you? Yeah, okay, well, pick up trash. Do what you can do.
Right.
Save everything.
And you're making money in the ranching business?
Yes. Not much, but the ranches get more valuable all the time, too, because they're not making any more of it.
All these projects, what are you most proud of?
my family. My children, none of them are in rehab. None of them are taking the cure. None of them have wrecked a train or crashed a plane. You know, that's progress.
I know your 5 children, and they are good kids. You got to admit, and they're all at least partially involved with you in the environmental related issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Well, they're all they serve on the Turner Foundation. I put them all on the board, and they work in environmental work on their own.
So you're really proud of the kids. So what else are you proud of?
I'm proud of my accomplishments. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a liberal voter, I guess.
What do you say about global warming?
What about it? I like to call it climate change because
Talk
not
about
everybody's getting warmer. Some places are getting cooler.
Talk about climate change and those who say, poo-pooing it, saying it's not that much of an issue.
Well, I've studied it carefully. It is hard. The weather is hard to predict and hard to, but we're learning a lot about it all the time. So it is a complex issue, and I can understand some people being skeptical about it. And but I think the overall weight is overwhelmingly in favor of it. So I've gone with the overwhelming majority opinions. And I think we need to, and it just makes sense. I mean, it's time to say goodbye to fossil fuels. They served us well for the last 200 years. Fire. What is global climate change but fire? That's what it is, and using oil, gas, and coal to burn. But we gotta quit burning stuff. Obviously, it's going to put pollution in the atmosphere. And that's pollution, if there's enough of it, is going to give us a lot of problems, which it's doing. So, it's time to put coal, oil, and gasoline behind us and go to solar and wind and renewable sources. Because first of all, we're going to run out of coal anyway, and oil and gas. We're running out, and we really can should save them because we're going to need those carbon molecules for building blocks for houses and other things. We need to convert over from limited non-renewable resources to unlimited clean sources of fuel.
But to get the job done, you're what they call a global citizen. It's going to require an international
Absolutely.
effort.
That's what, and we've got the UN sitting right there, ready to go. All we got to do is.
Are you happy with what they're doing right now?
Absolutely. I'm happy. Could they do more? They can't do more unless we want them to.
Well, you
they
think
work for us.
Like China,
we don't work for them.
Governments like China and India, very populated, are they doing enough?
No. Hardly anybody's doing enough right now. But are they doing more each year? You bet they are. China's doing a lot. And so is India. And if we just stay around and cheer them on when they do the right thing and criticize them a little bit when they don't do the right thing, try and push them along, who knows what we can do. I really believe that that what the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve. I said that before. But I keep saying it because maybe eventually it'll sink in.
Has it sunk in the United States?
No, not completely.
How do we get it to sink in?
Keep working at it. Keep working at it. And just yesterday in Santa Barbara, another one of those damn pipes, these pipelines, the Keystone Pipeline, they wanted to put it on my ranch, for God's sakes. I don't want, I'm trying to save my ranches, not pollute them. Anyway, you saw that there's a tremendous oil spill in California, another one. I'm sick of them. Put the cap on the oil and let it sit there. That's where it belongs, is underground. That's where God put it.
Are you disappointed in the political leadership in Washington?
No, not really. I'm being optimistic. They do a lot of things right, and with a little bit of help, they could do even more right. It's not the problems of politicians in Washington. It's all of us. We're all involved. My vote's worth just as much as the U.S. senators, and so are yours. Let's go out and vote. But we should have everybody voting for sure.
You think money talks too much in Washington?
Oh, that PAC money, I think that's the worst thing. The presidency can be bought. Who wants to buy being president? You're supposed to be elected to be president. I hate it. And that's something that I feel like is worth fighting over, not fighting to kill.
Because you're a rich guy. You could give a lot of PAC money, too, if you want.
I could. But you know, honest truth, I'm not so rich anymore. I've given $1,700,000,000 away of what I had. And you do that, and that wasn't just promises. That's real money that's gone out that I made the hard way. And, I don't have as much money as I would have had if I hadn't given that money away, if I'd have put it into coal or...
I don't think you would have done that.
No. But when I was a little kid, I thought burning coal was the right thing to do because that's all we'd ever done. There were no solar panels. You think that just 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. No solar panels. And none of these modern windmills, they didn't exist. They've been invented in the last 50 years.
You've really inspired other billionaires to give away a lot of money.
Well, I don't know. They don't tell me that.
Talk about that a little bit. How did you inspire the Warren Buffetts of this world and others to make sure that they give away to good causes some of their money?
I spoke to them. I went to see Warren, for instance. He's the richest man in the world, or he and Bill Gates. And I went to see Bill Gates too, and I said, you plan to do some philanthropy, don't you? He said, both of them said, I'm going to give almost everything I have away when I die. I said, but Warren, the population, for instance, people need birth control now. I said, you might live for another 50 years. And this was 30 years ago, and he's already lived 30 more years. I said, you need to put some of that money out so I can go to work right now. And he put some of it out.
And Bill Gates did too.
Yeah. And they started an organization to get everybody to give away it. And I support them, and I'm really proud of them.
It's really an amazing thing when you think about a commitment to give away a certain percentage of your wealth while you were alive.
Well, yeah, that's what I did. I gave it away without being asked, but because it was the right thing to do.
When you think about the people you admire most in the world today, tell us who you admire.
My hero of the top person made the greatest contribution to the 20th century was Mikhail Gorbachev, for bringing the Cold War to an end without a war, letting democracy, letting the people in Ukraine and Belarus and the other republics to vote whether they wanted to stay in with Russia or not, and they all voted to leave, and he let them leave without killing millions of people.
You think about the amazing moment that was.
He's a good friend of mine, too.
Do you know that when he signed that document ending the Soviet Union, do you know whose pen he used?
Whose?
Tom Johnson. There he is right there. His pen wasn't working. Tom was sitting in the front row. And I've got a pen. Where does that pen sit right now, Tom?
It's at the museum in Washington.
That's correct. So let's give Tom Johnson a shout out for that pen that ended the Soviet Union. That was a pretty amazing moment. And I was, as I pointed out, blessed to be covering that for CNN at that time. When you think about all of the stories that are happening right now, and you're still a news junkie, What is the most gripping for you? What are you obsessed with? What issue?
There isn't one that sticks out. I mean, because I'm a holistic person. We've got to really straighten it all out. We've got to get rid of nuclear weapons. We've got to get global climate change under control. We've got to do it all. We've got to abolish poverty in the world, and we're close. In the third world, the incidence of poverty is half what it was 20 years ago, and the UN has been working on that. Jeffrey Sachs, the sustainability. There's a lot going on. It's all basically what I'm most interested in is doing everything right, and doing nothing wrong. Why do we have to do wrong things, particularly when we know they're wrong? And keep doing the wrong thing. That's dumb people do that. And I don't want to be considered a dumb person. I want to be smart. I was going to start a party, but it was just too much work. The smart party. Somebody can take that idea. The slogan on your bumper stickers is "Vote smart." How can you be against that? You know, who wants to be dumb? Show me a show of hands here. Nobody here is dumb. They're all college graduates. But how many of y'all would prefer to be dumb rather than smart? See, not a single one. How many people in here want to kill somebody? Not a person. Why are we killing? But nobody wants to do it. Why are we out killing each other?
Why didn't you get into politics?
I wanted to, but I didn't have time. I mean, I've worked hard in my life. I'm kind of worn out, to tell you the truth, but I keep on slugging away.
Was there a moment you thought
I'll get up at 6:30 tomorrow morning and get on a plane and fly another 1,000 miles before I have lunch.
But was there a time in your life you really thought about getting involved in politics?
Sure. When I was married to Jane, because she had been in politics. Her husband ran for the Senate from New York and got clobbered. But she knocked on every door in California and asked them to vote for her husband. It wore her out. And I said, when I was married to her, I thought I'd maybe run for president. And I discussed it with her, and she said, "You do that, and I'm a goner." And so if your wife doesn't want to run, doesn't want to be first lady, you can't do it.
And you make a good point. An excellent point. So when you think, Ted, about your legacy, let's talk about your legacy right now. You got sports, you got baseball, right? That's pretty cool.
Philanthropy.
You got philanthropy, you got news, you got CNN.
Journalism.
You got great issues, you got great achievements. When you look back, forget about the family for a moment, your legacy, what do you want people to remember about you?
I'd like people to think that I was a nice guy. That'll do.
Well, you are a nice guy.
I did the best I could.
And just remind everybody here, because we're about to celebrate the 35th anniversary of CNN, the news organization you created. Why did you do that?
Well, because I thought there was a need for it. Before I got very deep in the television business, I worked till 6 o'clock, and the news came on at 5:30, and it was over at 6 or 7 when I got home. And then I had to go to bed because I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and by 10 o'clock I had to go to bed, and the news didn't come on till 11 o'clock. So I never saw the news on TV, and I wanted to see it. So I said, but it'd be nice, because there's lots of people that work shifts and so forth that would like to see the news but can't see it. But if you had insomnia, you could turn the television on at 3 o'clock in the morning, and see the news, or at 6 o'clock, or when the other networks were in soap operas all day long, with game shows. You'd have the news on another channel. That would be something that people would want. That's how Coca-Cola got started. People that like it soft drink, for God's sakes, with bubbles in it. And they did. That's right. Good ideas. It's hard to come up with a breakthrough idea, and CNN was a breakthrough idea, wasn't it?
They thought you were crazy, didn't they?
Yeah. A lot of people did. They said I was going to go broke, and I came very close. It took 5 years before it turned the corner and lost $250 million. And I dug the money up. I sweated every payroll for 5 years.
They called it CNN Chicken Noodle News.
Yeah, but those people that did that aren't around anymore.
Yeah. The thousands of people who
those are the people that are betting against us.
Yeah.
They don't think we're going to make it, that humanity's going to make it. The doubters.
Right.
They're around that. How many doubters have we got in the room? See, not a one here.
These are all smart people over here.
It's hard to, how come we're so screwed up when individually we're all pretty smart? That's why I think we got a chance of making it. In fact, I'll put my money on it. I would like to live long enough to see us get rid of nuclear weapons, and I'm 76. And that's one thing that I really would like to see go, because those things are so dangerous. If we have the same kind of accident with them that we've had with trains and planes just in the last few months, we can do it. We can win this one. And I thought the Hawks could win last night. I was at the game in Atlanta. Oh, I'm so tired. Anyway, but we lost.
I hate to tell you this, but I wanted the Wizards to win last week against
the Wizards.
The Washington Wizards.
Cleveland.
No, Washington.
The Wizards are gone.
My Washington Wizards. I know they're gone, but I wanted them to win. But
the Hawks beat them.
That's another story. I know. The Hawks beat them. I know. Let's talk about right now. Let's forget about basketball. Makes me nauseous right now to think about it. Let's talk a little bit about if you ever feel overwhelmed.
No. Nothing scares me. It doesn't, because, if you're scared, how are you going to make progress? You've got to have courage.
It's amazing when you sit here next to Ted Turner and you know everything that he's accomplished in all these different fields, and he still has that optimism, that spirit, that determination, the can-do effort. It's so inspiring to see someone like this speak like this, and I think all of us should be really grateful for Ted for what he's done. I'm not speaking, as just some objective journalist. I'm speaking as someone who has worked with Ted for so many years. CNN was created 35 years ago. I've been there for 25 of those years, and there's not a day that goes by when all of us at CNN, there are thousands of employees in the United States and around the world who are grateful to Ted for everything he did for us, he did for the world, he brought the news out there, and in so many other areas as well. Is there a final thought you want to make before we retire?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out here, and I'd like to thank the foundation here for this nice award and the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you and get everybody pumped up to go out there. This is like a little halftime speech. We're going to go out in the second half and kick their ass.
So I think I speak for all of us here. We're so grateful to you, Ted, for everything you have accomplished, and we're only just beginning. Is that right? We're only just beginning.
That's right.
We still have a lot more to do.
We've only been on the right track for about 50 years.
We got a lot of I got a lot to do, and we can do it.
Just see where we are 50 years from now.
I think you've inspired us.
I hope.
So we're grateful to you. So let's give, first of all, let's give Ted a big round of applause. Don't get up. Don't get up. I want to invite Lucy Baines Johnson, Linda Johnson Robb to come up here to the stage, please, and make the presentation. Ladies.
The importance of just showing up can't be overrated. Just ask the fans of recently deceased, renowned British mystery writer Ruth Rendell. In Baroness Rendell's obituary, it was noted that Rendell was a failed journalist because she wrote an article about a sports club dinner that she hadn't even attended. Consequently, Rendell failed to mention that the speaker of the evening had dropped dead in the middle of his speech. Not showing up cost Ruth Rendell her job in journalism. Blessedly, journalism's loss turned out to be mystery writing's gain. Having learned the cost of failing to show up, Rendell never again failed to show up for her audience. The LBJ Foundation and generations of Johnsons are deeply grateful that so many of you have shown up tonight to celebrate Ted Turner's winning the Lady Bird Johnson Environmental Award. When it comes to the environment, Lady Bird Johnson and Ted Turner always showed up and delivered. Tonight, the foundation that bears my father's name presents an award that bears my mother's. Throughout their marriage, Mama was my father's greatest advisor and friend, and he hers. Their love of the land was mutual, and when he championed the highway beautification bill, he did it because it was the right thing to do for America and in honor of Mama, even calling it Lady Bird's bill. Thus, this award from the Lyndon Baines Johnson Foundation means the world to my sister Linda and me and all of our family. The Lady Bird Johnson Environmental Award honors the outstanding achievements in the preservation, restoration, or improvement of the natural world that embraces Mother's style, energy, and commitment to her work. Its mission is to increase public awareness of the environmental issues facing our country by highlighting the work of selected individuals, corporations, and nonprofit organizations. The award salutes the work of Americans who are making a positive impact on the environment by successfully collaborating with communities and engaging others in the mission by reaching out to diverse sectors. It has been given to champions of our environment from Lawrence Rockefeller to Bruce Babbitt. Mother used to judge your commitment to a cause not just by what you said, but how much you were willing to give of the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. Ted Turner's love of the land is transparent in all that he says and he does, as it is in the photograph of tonight's invitation right above you. As his friend and mine, Tom Johnson, has already eloquently said, Ted Turner is legendary in putting his time, talent, and treasure where his mouth is. He is never afraid to speak up, speak out, and loudly as he leads by his extraordinary example. Both Mother and Ted Turner had careers in the business of communications. Both were blessed to have Tom Johnson's wisdom and guidance in their work. Both used the good fortune they had in their careers in championing, protecting, and preserving the natural world for others to enjoy. So giving Ted Turner the environmental award that bears Mother's name seems to be just the right thing to do. As a journalist who was a local broadcasting pioneer, Mother knew the power of words. She often said to me, "Lucy, words have wings. Be careful how you use them." Beautification was such a word for Mother. This is a term most attributed to Mother's work as First Lady and as a founder of the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. It is a term she used because she could find none other better at the time. But it worried Mama. She feared this word would be thought of only as cosmetic. For her, beautification meant so much more than pretty flowers. It meant clean water, clean air, clean roadsides, safe waste disposal, preservation of valued old landmarks, as well as great parks and wilderness areas. It meant the propagation and preservation and use of native plants, trees, and shrubs in our landscapes, and of course, the celebration of pretty flowers. It meant total concern for the physical and human quality we pass on to our children. Mother adored the natural world, recognized, as Ted Turner did, that God wasn't making any more of it, and wanted to pass the beauty, the joy, the hope, and tranquility she had known through it on to future generations. Ted Turner may have a slightly different style than Mother, but as a master of the corporate and nonprofit world, and an individual whose changes for the environmental world are simply unrivaled, Ted Turner is a one-man band for all that Mother believed in, providing a symphony that we want to celebrate with the award that bears her name for an American whose noble work is truly as big as all outdoors. Ted Turner, congratulations tonight on behalf of our family and the Lyndon Baines Johnson Foundation. This is an award that you have earned mightily, and we are honored to be able to give to you.
That's beautiful.
This is like Prometheus. When you start doing this stuff, you're going to find you really have to reach your Wheaties.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, I'm going to put this back down over here so we don't break any of our backs.
Okay.
But you will
Thank
get
you.
them sent in to you.
Let me just say, thank you all very much, and thank you for being here, and it was a great evening, and I'm happy to be here and be part of it. Thank you.
Ted, as you leave tonight, I hope that you have inspired every one of us to go out and try to make a difference. You certainly have made a phenomenal difference, and you've always admonished it, that let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Congratulations. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get to work.